millions.
Good evening. I'm Tyler Matheson. Tonight we bring you ordinary people who took offbeat ideas, some would say off the wall, and ran with them, past the doubters and the naysayers and sometimes even their own misgivings. With uncommon determination, they bucked the odds and can now count their winnings in the millions. We begin with a candy maker who believed the common jelly bean could be transformed into a gourmet treat. Using fresh fruit purees and exotic flavors, his company turned a humble candy into an international sensation.
Herman Rowland loves to work. Friends in Oakland, California predicted the big kid would grow up to be a football star. But Herman Rowland had only one dream.
I just had nothing else in mind except I was going to be in the candy business.
Candy making was in his blood. Herman's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all made candy their life's work, owning and operating the Golitz Candy Company. Herman joined the family business, but the early going didn't appear to be the road to riches.
We were not making any money, couldn't make any money, and trying to find a way to go. I felt like I was going to go down and try out for the Raiders. I really did.
Secret formula.
Herman decided his best defense was to go on offense and make different candies differently.
If we start making other products and we make them the best you can possibly make them with the best possible ingredients, even though we'd have a hard time getting much more money for it, that in the long run we'd be better off.
But creating new candies took money his company didn't have. So Herman went to the Bank of America to ask for a loan. The examiner took only a few minutes.
He says, you know, I would just take the little assets that you have, sell them, invest them in something else, because you're never going to make it.
The rejection only made him more determined than ever.
They said, you know, hey, I don't want to do that. We are not planning on going bankrupt.
A local bank gave him a small $60,000 loan. Herman used it to introduce a novel line of candy, Dutch mints. It featured a new twist in the candy business.
You start working with a formula, making a center that will get soft after it's coated with chocolate. Then you pan it with a thin, hard shell.
Herman tried the candy-making process on small jelly beans he called mini beans. Buyers liked them. Sales were modest, but brought in much-needed revenue. One fan of the mini jelly beans was the governor of California. Bags of the habit-forming sweets had replaced his pipe smoking.
We started working with his personal secretary, and she would call up once a month, and we'd send a couple of cases.
Another fan of the soft-center jelly beans was a candy distributor named David Klein. Rowland remembers Klein's phone call and his pitch for premium beans with unusual flavors like root beer and green apple.
He says, Herm, I know you make the best jelly bean there is in the world now, but I want to make it better. And I want to make it with real purees, real natural, as much as I can in it. And I want to sell one flavor at a time.
Klein also wanted to sell them for $2 a pound, 4 times the going rate. In 1976, paying that much for jelly beans was unheard of. So after months of trial and error to get the recipes right, Herman's small factory rolled out the world's first gourmet jelly beans. Klein named them Jelly Belly jelly beans. He and a business partner eventually trademarked the name.
We had created recipes for them. So that you eat this and this, and there was a combination that you could eat to create a banana split.
But at first they didn't sell. So Klein, a self-described showman, drummed up attention at trade shows and the store he sold candy out of in California. Herman had a front row seat.
We'd have these plastic boxes of each individual flavor. People lined up and blocked the aisles getting in line to taste Jelly Belly. They'd never tasted anything like it before.
By 1977, just a year later, sales started to pick up so quickly that Rowland needed to cut production of his other candies to keep up with the demand for Klein's brainchild. That's when he realized Jelly Belly could get even bigger. He was so convinced this was a blockbuster bean that he was willing to bet his company's future and his family's 143-year-old candy legacy on it.
We're the ones that are building factories, building machinery, reducing producing the rest of our product line so that we can give it all over to Jelly Belly, and we don't even have control of the trademark? I said, hey, we got to own this thing.
So he approached Klein and his business partner and offered them close to $5 million, paid out over 20 years, to buy the Jelly Belly trademark. They agreed. After the purchase in 1980, Herman still wasn't breathing easy.
You remember Pet Rock? Pet Rock was huge for a year or two, and then it went boom. Well, all the way along, I'm going like, okay, how long is this thing going to last?
Later that year, Ronald Reagan was elected president. Inauguration planners ordered special edition red, white, and blue Jelly Bellies.
Got a call saying, would you like to go to the inauguration?
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear that
I thought, well, you know, that might be kind of interesting to go to that. Little guy from California going to Washington, D.C.
It wasn't long before the national media was knocking on the little candy maker's door.
Got a call from the office saying, there's press outside the factory. They're taking pictures of the factory, and they want to come in, and they want to talk to somebody.
The same year, Herman added a second factory in Chicago. Revenues soared to more than $8 million. By the end of 1981, sales doubled again to $16 million.
We made everything we possibly could make. We had people screaming at us on the phone because we wouldn't give them merchandise.
The beans became a permanent fixture in the Oval Office and in cabinet meetings. They flew aboard Air Force One and were handed out to world leaders before, during, and after presidential visits. In 1986, Herman opened the biggest factory yet in Fairfield, California.
That's when we bought 10 acres up here and built 100,000 square feet to start with. And then only a few years later, we added 117,000 feet to it.
Some warned Herman against the rapid expansion.
When Reagan was going out of office, people were saying, well, now you're going to lose. Jelly's going to fall on his face.
The doubters only fueled his resolve.
You put everything on the table to succeed.
Not long after Reagan left office, Jelly Belly sales not only increased nationally, they went global. 4 presidents later, the beans are now sold in 40 countries. The Goldit's name was retired in 2001. Now it's the Jelly Belly Company. Recently, Herman decided to put even more on the betting table and build a new $10 million factory in Thailand. Meanwhile, revenue has exceeded his wildest sugar-infused dreams. Last year, sales hit almost $200 million.
Our most popular candy, of course, is our Jelly Belly beans. Jelly beans.
Tourists flock to the company's factory in Fairfield, California, to get a first-hand look at the 300,000 pounds of jelly beans cooked every day.
Coming down.
Herman still comes to the factory almost every day, as he has for the past 35 years.
This is candy making. They must know when the bean is ready to pan, when to put the syrup on, how many different sugar wettings. They must feel and touch, and they must live the candy.
Gonna do some panning now.
His daughter Lisa is also on the factory floor. When Herman steps down, she'll follow in the family footsteps. Herman will retire to the California ranch he bought after Jelly Belly's success. And he'll keep working. Jelly Belly hasn't stopped reinventing the jelly bean. One of their most popular new beans isn't even aimed at candy lovers. It's got fruit puree and sugar, but also lots of vitamins and electrolytes. They're called sports beans and are used by athletes or anyone who needs an energy boost.